A story that made major news headlines last week was that Michael Sam, a University of Missouri football player, announced that he is a homosexual. This is considered very significant because if Michael Sam is selected in this year's NFL draft, he will become the first openly homosexual player in the history of major American professional team sports. An interview with Michael Sam was conducted by Chris Connolly for ESPN's Outside the Lines. In reviewing the interview, I noticed a number of very interesting things. For example, consider this question from Connolly and Michael Sam's answer.
When did you realize what your sexual orientation was?
Well, I knew from a young age that I was attracted to guys. And growing up, I didn't know if it was a phase or it was just something I wanted to find who I was and make sure I knew what was comfortable. So I didn't tell anyone growing up.
Sam is directly asked when he first knew he was gay. If Sam believed that he was always, from his earliest years, attracted to members of the same sex, he could have simply said that. But he doesn't. Not only does he not state that he was always gay, but he makes a very revealing admission. He says that, quote, growing up, I didn't know if it was a phase, end quote. Consider that carefully. Is that a statement that someone who has always been attracted to members of the same sex, who has never known anything else, would make? No, it isn't. If that's what you are and always have been, you wouldn't say that you thought it might be a phase. You would consider it to be part of your nature. Some might respond, well, he thought that it was a phase because others around him were attracted to girls. That response fails, however, because it's still implausible that he would use the term a phase to describe the only thing he had ever known. Moreover, the objection is completely refuted by the very next question and answer in the interview. The interviewer then asks Michael Sam,
what does that uncertainty feel like, Michael?
Well, it's kind of confusing. I want to make sure to find who I am. And now that I know that I'm gay, I'm comfortable in my skin.
In this answer, Michael Sam is still addressing his years growing up. He says, quote, now that I know that I'm gay, end quote, clearly indicating that he didn't know he was gay until a later point in his life. In fact, he goes on to say that he, quote, dated a guy in college and that it was, quote, new and different. Whether he realizes it or not, his words demonstrate that he was not always a homosexual, but that he became attracted to members of the same sex later in life. Why is this significant? It's significant because it corresponds directly to the teaching of the Bible that people are given over to the unnatural same-sex attraction as a result of sinful choices and sinful actions, particularly apostasy, idolatry, and sins of the flesh. See Romans 1:21-27. In fact, it's very interesting that Michael Sam mentions the numerous tragedies that occurred in his life. He witnessed his older brother being shot to death. His second oldest brother went missing. He and his sister were the last people to see that brother, who was pronounced dead 2 years later. His other two brothers are currently in jail, and they have been in and out of jail for much of his life. When confronted with tragedy, people have a choice. This choice is presented to their hearts and minds. People can choose to turn to God, or they can choose to reject Him. God beholds the interior of man. He sees what a person truly wants in life, what his or her intentions are, even in their youth. Indeed, consider Michael Sam's revealing response to the question about how he reacted to the tragedies in his life.
That past could have crushed you, Michael.
It could have. I could be dead, Chris. But I made a choice. I made a choice at a young age that I knew that I didn't want to follow that path of my brothers.
Notice his incredible choice of words. Quote, I made a choice at a young age, end quote. What are the chances that he would use such language in his major TV interview about his homosexual tendencies and activities? It's fascinating that he would use those very words, and I don't believe it's just a coincidence. While his statement, quote, I made a choice at a young age, end quote, was not in reference to his sexual tendencies and activities, but to the path he wanted to follow in life in contradistinction to the path taken by his brothers. It is nevertheless revealing. For if Sam made a definitive choice at a young age about the path he would take in life, that can have a wide application. Moreover, when God allows evil and deception to occur, especially on a large scale and in events that gain great attention, He will often leave indications of the truth within that very context, for those looking more carefully and honestly for the proper explanation. I believe that's what occurred here with his words, quote,
But I made a choice. I made a choice at a young age.
Furthermore, If someone makes a choice about his life, and he decides that he will become the master of his own destiny, that can exclude and reject God as the master of all things and of everyone's life. That can be a form of apostasy even at a young age. And it might be the reason Michael Sam was given over to homosexual inclinations later on in his life. The only charitable and truthful message that can be communicated to Michael Sam and others is that homosexual behavior is unnatural, mortally sinful, and condemned in both the Old and New Testaments. See Romans 1 and 1 Corinthians 6:9, among other passages. People can be delivered from homosexuality by the grace of God, by changing their lives and coming to His true faith. There is no scientific, biblical, or sociological evidence that people are born gay. There are many documented examples of people having changed from the homosexual inclination. Scripture not only teaches that those who practice homosexuality and die unconverted will go to hell, but it also condemns those who approve, endorse, or defend homosexuality. See Romans 1:32. The response to Michael Sam's announcement in the media and sports world has not only been almost complete and total approval, but even glorification. In reference to his announcement, virtually no one in American sports or the United States mainstream media has even criticized the homosexual behavior for what it is: unnatural, perverted, and wrong. 2 Canadian football players who did criticize Sam's behavior were actually fined by the Canadian Football League. This is a frightening example of how the acceptance and glorification of this totally unnatural sexual perversion is sweeping the world. Remember, this is a behavior in which the human disposal system, the part of the body God created for that purpose, is used for sexual activity. It is abominable and beyond disgusting. In addition, pedophiles and perverts with adult-child sexual attractions make the very same arguments for their forms of perversion that homosexuals make. Many pedophiles claim they were born that way, that it's part of their nature, that it's who they are, that it represents love, that it's mutually beneficial to those involved, etc. They call it intergenerational intimacy. It's only a matter of time before the same approval that is being given to homosexual behavior is extended to consenting adult-child sexual situations, which of course are also unspeakable and abominable. It's also instructive to consider some of the facts about homosexuals and their behavior. These facts can be confirmed by those who desire to honestly research the issue. This provides a reality check about the practice that is so defended in our day. An average practicing homosexual has approximately 100 to 500 sexual partners. Many have 1,000 partners or more. Approximately 80% of homosexual men say that more than half their partners were total strangers or people they had sex with only once. Historically, homosexuality was practiced in bathhouses with dozens of strangers in a day. While the average fidelity rate among heterosexual married couples is approximately 70 to 80%, the average fidelity rate among homosexuals in their quote relationships is less than 5%. Many homosexuals engage in sadomasochistic behavior in which their partner is hurt or injured. Other things occur in their quote relationships that are so disgusting they cannot even be mentioned. Homosexuals are 1 to 2% of the population, but 50% of those with AIDS. According to the CDC in 2010, 20% of gay men have HIV. On average, homosexuals die at a significantly younger age than heterosexuals. Homosexual relationships are more violent. Homosexuals are more likely to commit suicide, have mental disorders, and be pedophiles. That's the truth about homosexuality. It's an unnatural, perverted, sexual attraction and behavior, period. Until 1973, the American Psychiatric Association officially classified homosexuality as a mental illness. However, after pressure from homosexuals and liberals, it was removed from that classification. The promotion of homosexuality in mainstream culture would have been unthinkable just a few decades ago. Now homosexuality is not only approved, but glorified, and those who oppose it or speak against it are considered unacceptable. While homosexuality is a widely celebrated and totally unnatural form of sexual perversion in our day, sexual perversion takes on many forms in the world. Millions look at pornography and are addicted to it, and they live out their perverted sexual quote relationships with images of strangers. There are many others who are dominated by bizarre and perverted sexual fetishes. Should they be considered special classes of people who cannot be criticized or whose behavior cannot be denounced? Should they be given a special status or protection in law? Of course not. This is how far society has fallen into moral turpitude.